Hi there, Ellwood City sports fans. My name is Brad Windhorst reporting for Ellwood City Sports. Folks, it is November 30th, and that means not only tomorrow is December the 1st, it is Wolverine Madness. Winter Sports has arrived. Starting tomorrow night, we'll have Wolverine Madness where you meet the Wolverines for winter sports. And then Friday night, we kick off. Both teams are in action. Girls basketball has the St. Joseph's tip-off this weekend. And the boys also have a matchup Friday night versus Rochester at Geneva College for their tip-off. And then they head to Laurel for the Laurel tip-off. So a lot of sports action in the next couple of days. A lot of broadcasts that you can check out at Ellwood City Sports. Before we begin today's 2022 Fall Sports Review, a transition before we head to winter sports, we'd like to recap everything that happened in fall sports. But before we begin, I want to make sure that everybody knows you can check us out on our website, www.ecwolverines.com, for more in-depth information, results, standings from the fall sports. This is just a recap of Ellwood teams. There's a lot more information out there. Check us out on our website, as well as our YouTube page. That's going to be in full action once again. We've already had about 25 to 30 broadcasts. We're on pace for over 90 this year just for Ellwood City, so check us out on our YouTube page. Type in Ellwood City Wolverines. Make sure you subscribe and turn on those notifications, and you'll be notified every time we go live. So today, we recap, real short show today for the 2022 Fall Sports Review. We're going to talk about all the teams for Ellwood City, including cross country, football, golf, soccer, girls tennis, as well as girls volleyball. So let's get it going, and here we go. First up, the team that we're going to talk about is cross country. Cross country for Ellwood City was at the Division II 1A Section 1 level there. They competed very well this year. They were looking to go for not only back-to-back seasons, but looking to continue their undefeated season streak. Unfortunately, they did lose two matchups this year with that overall record dropping to 8-2. It was a great run by the cross country group, and as well as they have done in the past as a team, we also had a big standout this year at state. So it's a trade-off, an 8-2 finish, second place overall, losing ultimately the championship in the section to Laurel. Laurel went undefeated and had some really good individuals on that young team. The team for Ellwood, though, at the Cal U Invitational finished 17th. At Max mid-year, they finished 11th. And when it counted the most, they got into Tri-County Championships. The team overall finished 3rd. That was good enough for the team to qualify for Whippeals, where they, as a team, overall for boys cross country, finished 8th. We did have one individual that went to states, and that was specifically, and I love his first name, I don't know why, but there's some great correlation there with that first name. Bradley Custer made it to states, and if you've ever seen the course for states out at Hershey Park, it is insane. There's a lot of hills. The very first section, the gate to start it, you get funneled into a small window there, and it's all uphill. So if you want to check out that course map, you can on our website, ecwolverines.com. But let's give credit where it's due. Bradley Custer at states at the different sections. At the 2.5K mark, he was 102nd overall. At the 5K mark, he was 112th. And overall, out of the 700 plus individuals that competed that weekend out at Hershey Park, Bradley Custer finished 514th overall. So great congratulations to the team, as well as Bradley Custer on a really good, successful season once again for cross country. Up next on your screen is football. Football competed once again at the 2A Section 2 level, the MAC Conference as most people know it. The team finished 2-8, 1-6, and 7th overall out of the 8 teams. The 7th place does not sound very pleasing when you ask many individuals that are partake in with the team, But we got to look at the big picture here, folks. This team brought so much to the table. I can talk about stats for days. Again, on our website, we can check them all out. The stats that were broken this year, the point totals of this team, the amount of offense, let alone a really decent, good defensive team across the board. On your screen, they broke a 27-game losing streak. There's no other way to talk about this. When I was in high school, we were at the 33 losing mark. So 27 was getting up there, but hey, they competed this year and they broke that losing streak. They also come back a couple weeks later and they break a 27 conference game losing streak versus New Brighton, who New Brighton in recent times has had Ellwood's number. So they break two records just by winning games. Then you talk about the records off the table for individuals. Elijah Palmer McCain, 1,156 rushing yards as a great individual and as a sophomore. Nobody in Ellwood's history, from what we've learned, Wise and our great guy there, the statistician Darren Schilling for Ellwood, no other sophomore has done that at Ellwood. So congratulations to Elijah Palmer McCain. We know that's going to go somewhere. And when you add his total from his freshman year of about 400-some yards, he's up there. It's very, very close to that, cracking that top 10 rushing mark. Chris Smiley, great talk here of offense. Some of that rushing yardage was based off of what the quarterback could do. And Chris Smiley did pass for 940 yards, just missing that 1,000 mark. And it would have been a long time since we've seen two players for Ellwood at that 1,000-yard mark. A little side note, there was one team out there that did hit a 1,000-yard mark, not once but 4 times, and that was actually Steel Valley, which does compete at the 2A level. So a lot of good competition at the 2A level across the board. Finally, Dante Pierce, we want to give a shout out to him. 506 kickoff return yards, a mark that had withstood at least till 2012 that we know of. We haven't seen those numbers in a long, long time. A lot of these stats, these are just the small look at it. I know they just released the all sections and the nominations there. You can check them on our website and our social media pages. The Ellwood City Football Boosters page also has that information. Some really big accolades and honors there across the board. Finally, a little side note for football real quick before we move on. We want to talk about the teams in the MAC conference. You had the number 2 seed, the number 4 seed, the number 9, the number 10, and the number 14. And if you look at those top 2 teams, the number 2 team was Beaver Falls, and the number 4 was Neshannock. Both those teams made it to the semifinals. Neshannock almost pulled up probably the biggest upset I could think of the semifinal area, other than obviously Union. They almost pulled the upset against Steel Valley. Flip side, Beaver Falls did win their semifinal. Unfortunately, they came up short against a really good Steel Valley team that not only will be competing at the PIAA level, there's a good chance they could go against Southern Columbia, which would be a pretty good matchup at the 2A level. So once again, congratulations to the football team. Expect more from this team next year. It's very similar section. It's going to have the very similar concept. You got to win at least, I would say, 3 games and 4 games for sure guarantee you playoffs the upcoming season. So there's football. Moving on. Halfway through, we're looking at golf. Golf this year was competing at the 2A Section 5 level. Most of your sports here at Ellwood is at the 2A level. Some sports teams in the springs, primarily in the basketball in the winter, play at the 3A level. But most of your falls are 2A. The team finished 8-5, 7-5 in conference with an overall finish placing of 3rd place. The top 2 teams at the time that competed for the section championship was Neshannock and Mohawk, and those 2 teams competed very well, and Ellwood was not a big drop-off. If you know anything about Ellwood's golf team, last year they lost a decent amount of individuals that competed very well at the senior level. I know we want to give a shout-out to Milo Sesti because he was part of that group last year. There were 6 individuals last year on that group of seniors that graduated. So this team was fairly young, and the fact that they went 7-5 5, let alone 8-5 in the overall record there. Bodes well for the future for golf. In the MAC tournament that they had there, they finished 13th. And in between all the fun stuff going on, there was one day specifically where there were 4 events going on at the same time. It was insane. You had qualifiers, you had the Tam O'Shanter, you had the Tri-County Championships. Everybody was everywhere when that went down. Jordan Keller, he did finish in the sections 5th place, which allowed him to qualify for Whitfield, where he did finish 56th, just missing the mark to move on into the final round. At the same token, Maddie McCummins, a senior for Ellwood, finished 8th in sections, qualified there, went 16th in the first round of Whitfields, which allowed her to come back the next weekend, or the next week, where she overall finished 13th at the Whitfield level. Once again, just missing the mark to make the states, but kudos to both those players, both those individuals did a really good competition-wise all year long, and congratulations to Senior McCummins. And I tell you what, Jordan Keller is going to come back and compete next year at that golf level. Only, as a freshman, expect big things there for Jordan Keller. Finally, overall, that team on that same day, the Tam O'Shanter, they finished 16th. On the flip side, I want to say more important, but they're all important. The Tri-County Championship, the golf team as a group, finished 5th overall. So finally, there you go for golf. 8-5, a decent 3rd place finish in the section. Moving on to soccer. Soccer competes once again at 2A level at Section 4. This is a fairly new team. We've documented it all year long. This is a group of individuals who are doing something to better the program that most individuals do not do. And it's a hard task. Soccer used to be around when I was in school, just about a decade ago now. But they did, unfortunately, fall apart there. But they're on their way back. And I know if you saw our graphic at the beginning of the Fall Sports Review, you saw that there's a brand new turf football field there. Expect soccer to be very competitive on that and look real nice in uniforms on that brand new turf field. Overall, soccer unfortunately did not win a game all year long. They did finish in 7th place because of that. But if you look at the section that soccer had, holy smokes. Section 4, the number 2 seed, number 6 seed, number 10, and number 14, all top 4 teams qualified very well for playoffs. Specifically, Quaker Valley was the number 2 seed, and they finished 3rd place in Whitfield. They actually got upended and upsetted by the opposing team there. The flip side, Beaver made it all the way to the championship game for Whitfield, and they took 2nd place. So both teams very competitive. The fact that they were in 3rd and 2nd tells you this section was very good. Moreover, we want to talk a little bit more about it. Look at the top 4 teams in the section were at least 500 or above. And if you take the top 2 teams in Beaver and Quaker Valley and you combine the records, 32 and 13. Wow. That Quaker Valley team won 17 games, and were actually kind of a favorite team to win Whitfields, let alone make a good run there to states. But that tells you the 2A level of soccer was very competitive this year. Moving on, girls tennis is next. Girls tennis competed once again at the 2A level. Section 4 this time. Team record overall at the end of the year was 1-6. Their one victory was defeating Beaver Falls, and they defeated Beaver Falls very handily. I believe it was 5-0 in that matchup there. It was once again a young team. Tennis last year graduated several seniors and some big heavy hitters there that helped in the individual top 3 singles for competition. But once again, this team is going to be looking to rebuild and build off of this year as a learning curve for next year. Maddie McCummins, the senior, the lone senior there, the big senior for the girls team, she made it all the way to the MAC semifinals in competition, did very, very well there. The one thing we got to say is she all year long has a competition between girls tennis and soccer, girls tennis and golf, and that is very hard. A lot of times those actual matches are at the same time. So throughout the year, she has to determine where are we going. Are we going this way? Are we going that way? But she does a very darn good job competing at both of those sports. So very good job there by Maddie McCummins. Also, we want to give a shout out to Kaylin Hamilton. She finished in the quarterfinals. So your two singles, number 1 and number 2 on the season for the girls team, both of them making it at least to the quarterfinals. A couple weeks later, Maddie McCummins competed at the sections and finished quarterfinals there as well. A hard matchup across the board and very competitive. I know they also had team competitions. The number 1 grouping and pairing for Ellwood drew Central Valley in the first round. And unfortunately, Ellwood did lose. And that tells you how good and strong this section was, especially knowing that Central Valley, you get them in the first round. Oof. Little side note before we move on. Sewickley Academy. Yes, if you did not know, Sewickley Academy was in the section. Sewickley Academy finished second in Whipples and also took second in states. Sewickley Academy, 9 times out of 10 each year, produces an individual girl that's going to be competing at states, but more importantly at the collegiate level, and could even potentially, we've seen it in the past at Sewickley Academy, go professional. So Sewickley Academy, with that being in the section, once again, kudos to the girls tennis team. That's a tough section. We'll be looking for them to build off of it for next year. Finally, the last grouping for fall sports, we're talking about girls volleyball. Girls volleyball, one of the 2 teams competing at Section 1. They're 2A Section 1 there. Overall record of 8-9, 6-8 in section play. That was good for 5th place. A little bit disappointing at the end of the stretch there. They had a couple upsets that they had to perform, and unfortunately they just couldn't get it done in the last 2 weeks. Not judging their schedule, but throughout the year, when you look at a schedule for a team, and when you see the top 3 teams back to back to back in a week and a half, a Tuesday matchup versus Shenango, a Thursday matchup against Neshannock, and then you come back the following week, next Tuesday, to follow up with Laurel. That is not easy. And that happened not once, but twice. But the 3 games home and away, they matched up right in a row. So that's a very tough section there, let alone a very tough week of play. Unfortunately, they did finish in 5th place, so they did not qualify for playoffs. They did have the MAC small tournament at the beginning of the year. They did make the semifinals, and they got a good preview of Neshannock because they competed against Neshannock and lost, so that kind of helped them gauge where they were at throughout the year. The section finished with the following seeds: number 2, number 6, number 9, and number 10 in the Whitfield playoffs. And those 2 top teams, number 2 and number 6, did end up making a little bit of a run. The one team that we really saw stand out, if you look across the board, yes, we could talk about football with Beaver Falls and Neshannock. The one team I want to stand out about is this Shenango volleyball team for girls. They were dominant. They had an undefeated season going into the last week and got upended there in the last week. But the Shenango girls team competed very well. They finished second at Whipples. They made a little bit of a run during states, and unfortunately did get defeated in the second round, I believe it was, or the third round of states. And ultimately, at the 2A level, Freeport High School out there in Freeport historically has always had a really good girls volleyball team. Freeport did end up taking that region, but more importantly, they did take the overall 2A state title. So Freeport kind of overshadowing Shenango. We'll take that because it's Lily from District 7. Finally, if you take the Section 1 top 4 teams, if you would take Shenango, Neshannock, Beaver, and Laurel, and add them all up, wow, look at that. A whopping 54-20 on the year of those top 4 teams that qualified for playoffs. So there you go, folks. That was the 2022 Fall Sports Review. I hope you enjoyed it. I know we've got a lot of action coming up Be sure to go back and review all the results and standings from fall sports. You slide over one tab, it's winter sports time. We'll have boys basketball coming up this weekend. We'll eventually slide over to the girls' side and take on their live streams. And eventually we'll have wrestling. We're trying to look at the bocce ball schedule this year and see if we could potentially live stream that, but we'll have to keep that one in mind. So there you go, folks. A wrap-up of the 2022 Fall Sports Review. I've been your host, Brad Windhorst for Ellwood City Sports. Again, our next live stream tomorrow night, Wolverine Madness, $3 for adults, $1 for students from the Lincoln High School Big Gym. Come out, support your team at 6 p.m. Get to see over 21 groups be introduced. And then Friday night, boys basketball back in action from Geneva College, 6 p.m. versus Rochester. Good night, folks, and we'll see you tomorrow night.